welcome to session 1 of the on-demand computer science grants. First of all, I'd like to say thank you very much for signing up, whether you've just bought this grant individually or whether you've bought several or the whole package. Thank you very much, and I hope this is going to be useful to you. So, first thing I'll point out is that along with this video or videos that you bought, you have got along with that a set of notes. The set of notes covers whatever chapters it is you have bought. So if you just bought this one video, you'll get notes on chapter 1. If you bought the whole course, you'll get all 10 chapters in one document, okay? Now, for those of you who have bought the whole document, the first thing I'd point out is maybe if you want to print them out, take a bit of ownership in the notes, write your name at the top on the first page, just so, I suppose you call it a mental thing, puts it in your mind, these are your notes, you need to look after, you need to mind them. Okay, next thing that I'll point out to you is that if you actually just go to the back of the notes, just there on the last couple of pages, you'll see I've given you all the definitions that you need to know and all the abbreviations that you need to know. So there's no harm maybe, over the course of your studies, having a flick through them, learning them all off, make sure you know them for the exam, because then when they come up, it can be easy marks for you to obtain. So, what are we going to cover over the course of the next 14-15 sessions? Well, one thing I want to make clear is that in this course, I am not covering programming. I'm focusing exclusively on theory. Why have I done that? Well, Python in Leaving Cert is no different than Python in other aspects of computer science, right? And there is endless amounts of free resources available in multiple places online that you can learn Python from. And that's the very same Python you'll apply in Leaving Cert Computer Science. So I didn't see a reason for me creating a video series and then charging people when there's free resources available elsewhere. Now, that being said, if that's something people want and you would like a video series that focuses on programming, I'm more than happy to make one. If it's something you'd be interested in, just send me an email at leavingcertnerd@gmail.com. For those of you who have not come across this series through TikTok or through my Instagram page, that's the name of the Instagram page I run, where I cover chemistry and computer science. So if you would be interested, just send me an email and let me know. And of course, if you have any other questions, you can contact me there and I'll help you out the best I can. So, coming back now to what we're actually going to cover over the course of the next couple of sessions. So we're going to start off today after I do a quick kind of course introduction. I'm going to go through computational thinking. We're going to get you thinking like a computer scientist. Then we're going to move on to data types and number systems. So that's obviously different data types, and then things like binary, ASCII, hexadecimal, all those kinds of things. Then algorithms, your sorting algorithms, your searching algorithms. Software development. It's more kind of taking a theoretical approach as to how computer science projects are actually go from start to finish. The history of computing, so how we've gotten from where we started to where we are now. The ethics of computing. Then we're going to look at kind of tying into the history of computing a bit is Turing machines, which is an exam question that comes up pretty frequently, and it's a skill you learn, but once you get it down, you'll get every exam question that ever comes up on it. Computer systems, this is quite a big topic. In my notes, computer systems it covers quite a large volume of course, so that might be about 3 sessions probably. And then machine learning and artificial intelligence, obviously very prevalent nowadays, and it's being like that on the exam papers as well. Computer science tends to be a very, I suppose the paper is very in tune with what is going on in the world right now, and this obviously being a big thing right now with the rise of things like ChatGPT and Copilot and all those other things. And then we're going to finish off looking at the internet and the World Wide Web. So what I have over here is that, as I said, I'm not covering programming in these sessions, but some free resources online that you can use to help with the programming. Things like freecodecamp.org is a great website. It focuses on Python. There's a beginner Python course, and there's also things that covers HTML, CSS, JavaScript. If you want to do more advanced programming, you'll find free courses there as well. Obviously, YouTube, there's education videos about anything and everything on YouTube. If you just look up Python for beginners, intermediate Python, you'll find endless amounts of videos you can watch on YouTube. You can also do, if you want, to CS50 from Harvard. CS50 is the beginner computer science model that's offered to students at Harvard University based in the US. And some of their classes, they cover Python and HTML. And there's also, if you want to focus on Python, there's a version of CS50 called CS50P that focuses exclusively on Python. And you can get that either on YouTube or you can get it for free also on edX.org. Another very good resource that's been around for quite a long time now is Python for Everybody by Charles Severance. He works for the University of Michigan. He's developed a really good series of videos and books that are a great introduction to Python and kind of coding principles in general. And the last one, technically, this isn't a free resource, but some of you may have it already, and that's the Computer Science for Leaving Certificate textbook. Obviously, all the programming languages are covered in there as well. But I suppose for those of you who want maybe more interactive ways of learning Python and possibly more engaging methods, then maybe a couple of the first two might be more beneficial to you. So that is kind of the outline of what we're doing and where we're going. So we'll actually get started, and then what I'm going to do is before we get into actual theory, I'm going to break down the exam for you to let you know what marks are going where and where you need to be spending your time. So, in computer science, you are marked out of 300 marks in total, right? And that is broken down into two components. So you have a written exam that you're going to sit in. I'll come back to that in a second, because that's not the straightforward answer. You have a written exam and the ultimate project, right? So, in terms of marks for those, your written exam is worth 70%, and your project is worth 30%. So, the project you will do in kind of December to March of 6th year, and then your written exam. This is a key one now. Unlike the other written exams, the computer science written exam takes place in May of 6th year, not June of 6th year. It's typically about 2 weeks before the actual exam starts. You're talking to be around the 23rd, 24th, 25th of May, normally around then, whatever that Wednesday is. That's normally when the exam takes place. The reason for that is that because you're using actual computers in your exam, your teacher has to be around in case there's any kind of technical issues. So, if we break this down even further, right? You have 3 sections to your exam, right? You have section A, you have section B, and you have section C. So, section A is your short questions. So, this is where you're given 12 short questions and you have to answer 9 of them. Or you have to answer at least 9 of them. Now, short questions, I would recommend, if you can, answer all 12, and then the examiner will just take your best 9. And those 9 short questions are worth 54 marks. And that totals to that is 18% of your final grade. So I know the percentages here are kind of strange numbers, but that is what it's worth. Section B then is your long questions. So in section B, you're given 3 long questions and you have to answer 2. You answer only 2. Now in section B, unlike section A, I would not recommend answering all 3. I would just pick 2 and stick with those 2, unless you find that you're really ahead of time. I would recommend just sticking to 2. And those 2 are worth, between them, 76 marks. And those 76 marks are worth 25% of your overall grade. And then finally, section C. Section C is your programming section. This is worth 80 marks. You have no choice here. There's 2 parts, you answer both of them. And then this is worth 80 marks. And that is 27%. Now, something I will point out to you straight away, 30%, 27%. So between these 2 parts here, that's 57%, right? That's nearly 60% of your entire grade is covered just in programming. So your programming skills is something you really need to work hard on and get them to a good standard, right? Because obviously programming versus theory is roughly speaking about 60-40. So I know obviously I'm providing this video series for you to work on your theory and help you with that aspect of the course, but that should not be your focus. Your focus should be working on your programming skills. Okay? Now, another thing I'll point out about the exam is that it's somewhat unique in that you are not tested on all 3 sections in one go. What do I mean by that? So when you go in to sit your exam on whatever it is, right, you will do section A and section B first together, and you get an hour and a half to complete those 2 sections, and that is run like any other written exam. It's pen on paper, right? After that hour and a half is over, these 2 sections, your answer booklet will be taken off you and submitted essentially, right? And then in between those 2 in section C, you get a half an hour break. Why a half an hour break? That half an hour break is for, depending on what your school setup is, either for you moving from a regular classroom to a computer room, or possibly getting out laptops, or just even if you're taking the exam in the computer room, just getting the computers and everything set up, making sure there's no technical difficulties, no issues. That's what that half an hour break is for. And depending on your school, you may also get a chance to eat something as well, or go to the bathroom. Depending on the school, they may or may not allow that. And then for sections, so then after the half an hour break is up, the section C part of the exam will start, and you have an hour then to complete section C. So in terms of timing that I would recommend, as I said, an hour and a half for section A and section B. I'd recommend probably about 40 minutes for section A, and then 50 minutes for section B. So about 25 minutes per long question. Section C, then obviously you get the full hour. It's 2 parts. The first part is where you're given a piece of code and you're asked to make modifications to it. It's very linear, and it's easy enough to follow along. The second part, then part B, is a more open-ended question where you're not given, or at least you haven't been in the previous 2 years, you're not been given any code, and you're given a set of more detailed instructions and asked to essentially make something from scratch. Now, that obviously might sound scary, but in the past couple of years, if you have a look at them, those problems have actually been very, very doable. So for sections, I'd probably recommend, to be honest, splitting it about half and half, because both parts are worth relatively the same marks. Maybe if you can spend a bit less time on part A than part B, but that is what I recommend. Okay, so that is the breakdown of your exam. So now we will get into some actual content.